All right, welcome. Day one, Comes Be Next. Probably one of my favorite conferences that I go to. What's your favorite session so far? Ruth has the right answer. She was there in the morning. I had a joint session with Christian Buckley this morning. So yeah, it's a busy day, but after that, I can just sit back and watch the door for the next day and a half, which is great. All right, so thank you for joining me. This was actually the session that I did at Ignite, and I was very honored to be picked to speak in the 12-minute section that they had us. So that was a marathon, and on top of it, there were some technical difficulties when I walked in, so that was fun. But today I get to expand it and actually do the demos instead of just talk about things, which is fun. So how many of you are using Copilot now? All right, so it's enabled for your organization. All right, what about other, if you don't have Copilot, are you using the free version, the Copilot for the web? Anybody use that? ChatGPT? Yeah, okay. So we're gonna talk about meeting management from the perspective of, how do we create efficient meetings and how does Copilot help us support those, what makes an efficient meeting, and how do we do that with the tools that we have? All right, some of those you do have to have the Copilot license. Some of them you do not. All right, so who am I? I'm Shari Oswald. They call me Shortcut Shari. It started out as a joke and it stuck. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, regional lead for the Microsoft certified trainer community, and I can't say newly minted MVP because it's been over a year now. Let's see if they keep me after a year. We'll see what happens. But you can reach out to me out on the blog sphere, so whatever you want to, just look for Shortcut Shari. The hardest thing to remember is how to spell my name. Even my grandfather didn't spell it right most of my life, so thanks Mom for being creative. But I actually had a guy, I ordered some coffee the other day, and he wrote my name down, spelled the right way. I was like, that never happens. So, all right, so this is my mission statement. Whenever I'm working with my clients or doing presentations or classes, my objective is to make this fun and creative and help you to solve your business challenges with technology. So hopefully we can do that today. Okay. All right, I always start with what's your problem? Not what's your problem, but let's talk about what your problem is and find the best solution. I am a solopreneur, but I also have a network of very smart friends. And if you have any need for authors, practitioners, change agents, I just released yesterday my new course on LinkedIn Learning. So if you're there, I have 4 courses on there now, if you're interested in any of those. I just finally updated the communication site one, which I was very excited to do. I'm like, that's so 5 years old. We need the new stuff. So here's some of those. And if you want to, you can use the URL there to find all of my courses. All right. So how can Copilot streamline your meeting processes, making them more efficient and productive? What are some of the challenges that you have in conducting your meetings? What makes them inefficient? Because how many of us love to sit in meetings?
You take notes and capture things that you know are important, but as you're taking the note, you're processing that thought that you got down, you're missing stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I call it residual gestational brain damage. After I had children, I cannot remember things. I have the hardest time multitasking. I have 2 people talking to me at once. I'm like, whoa, stop. I can only listen to one of you at a time. So I've become kind of single lane, especially as people in my vintage, it makes a big difference. But yeah, I just can't seem to keep up with it like I used to. Anybody feel that pain? Yeah, I see some nods. Okay. So capturing notes and having to multitask because you're trying to listen and capture at the same time. Yeah. What else? Agendas? Lack of? Yeah. Wandering. Yeah. People just not staying on track or not even telling you why you're there to begin with. Yeah. I worked for a nonprofit in Colorado Springs. And if I had a free spot on my calendar, I was in some meeting somewhere. And it was almost like high school when, ding, the bell would go off and everybody would move and shift and then go to the next conference room and boom, then at that hour, the next meeting. I was like, okay, I need a bio break. It was just one of those things that it didn't really help me for that. All right, so no agenda, and then sitting down and they're like, blah, 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 blah.
It's small talk. It really pushes the meeting.
It does. But we need that bonding time. Do you agree? Yeah.
There needs to be someone who can put a stop to it and bring everybody back out of that rabbit hole and say, okay, so our agenda for today.
Without sounding like the teacher, or what I say, don't make me use my mother voice, because my kids are like, you're yelling at me. I'm like, no, I can yell. This is not the yelling. This is just the mother voice, right? Yeah. Right. So common challenges: lack of clear objectives. Why are we here? Poor time management. We get off on these tangents and nobody is reining people back in. I'm working right now with a company that's out of, they're a manufacturing company, and this project manager, I love him because he's great at this, and I love being in meetings with him. And then engagement and participation. How many of you are multitasking or feel the need to multitask when you're in a meeting that's not productive anyway? You kind of tune it out and do other things, especially now that we work remote and virtual. Yeah, how do we get people to pay attention? All right, so here are some of the biggest meeting irritations, according to statistics. Look at the number one, 55%. I might be guilty of that person that's on camera going, texting while somebody else is talking. Or if I'm not on camera, or somebody goes off and they dip out of the meeting because they have to take a call. That's a big one. People who aren't listening. Why aren't they listening? Maybe they're still trying to take notes, and so they're not really paying attention. Arriving late or leaving early. Who does this, especially in the virtual world? Anybody have this problem? Yeah, and for me, it's because I am a consultant and I have multiple tenants. So not only am I just trying to switch meetings, I have to log out, log in, and on my computer, based on the client that I'm working with, I have a completely separate profile because I've intermixed them inadvertently. And sometimes I'm working for competitors that don't need to know I'm working for the other one. Yeah, so that kind of makes things, so leaving early. People who talk about nothing for a long time. Yeah, it's like, but they're like the head of the company or whatever, so you can't shut them down. They're like, what? So my son, we have this thing with Winnie the Pooh. So Jordan was Pooh Bear, Jenna was Piglet, I was Tigger before that. But then I asked Jordan, I said, who do you think Grandpa should be? He's like, Owl, because he talks a lot, but he doesn't really say anything. I'm like, out of the mouth of babes. How about interrupting? People talking over each other. I think, does this happen more in person or do you think virtually?
I think it's worse.
Yeah, because you don't get those social cues that somebody wants to speak up and you want to chime in.
Attention and listening. So they're going to talk over something when they've actually just talked about what they are asking.
Right. So and I'm notorious for that. So my husband and I went to counseling and we had this little stuffed turtle, and whoever had the turtle had the stage. So I couldn't interrupt my husband. So like, who has the mic? Yeah. Who has the stage? People eating, I think that's hilarious. Like, I always eat at my desk, but I don't eat in meetings. Nobody needs to see that.
I think a cat going across the screen versus watching somebody else.
And then I think taking notes on a laptop, I see that's an irritation because in my office, my mic is there. It's I typing notes. So I've gotten back to taking notes on paper that I transfer later. But I tell people, I'm on camera with you. I said, if you see me looking away, it's because I'm writing notes down. And they're like, oh, okay. Because otherwise they think I'm just not paying attention.
If I'm taking notes, write them blue. Remember it more.
Blue? That's a good tip. I'm a little obsessed with purple. And if I find my purple pens in my husband's office, I know he's been in my office stealing my pens. Okay. So how do we schedule and prepare for meetings? First thing is we need to invite only the necessary attendees. This is one of the things I think when people are inviting people, they forget who is essential and who is optional. And they don't really use those invitations appropriately. Provide transition time. Don't start on the hour to the hour, because how many of your meetings ever end on time? No, because you have that guy that's owl talking about everything and saying nothing. And then also set an agenda and have a good idea of how long you think that agenda is going to take. And Copilot can help us with doing some of these things, but also the settings in Teams. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that. All right, so I have, this is one of my clients, Michael Blumenthal. You might know him. He's an MVP. But I have his permission. Anything you see from there, I have his permission to share it with you. Okay. All right, so we're going to have a Teams meeting, and we're going to set the time. And it tells me I'm available, but is everybody else available? So in this setting, we have the 2, which if everybody is there, but we also have the option to say there are some optional people that don't necessarily have to be here. We're going to find that time and set that meeting up for them. All right, here's one of my tricks. In Outlook, actually, I'm going to do it from Viva. Let's go to here. Anybody using Viva? This is I was doing some tips and tricks sessions this week, and somebody said, let's talk about the stuff that's in Viva for the time management piece. Okay. I don't know what is, keeps turning that blue. We'll see. All right. Yeah, there's nothing here. I thought, oh no, there is a cord right here below my feet. Okay. Same thing? Okay. Okay, so Viva Insights. Here are your settings, and I call this your Fitbit for work. How many of you have a little watch that tells you, and then you have the little app that says, you don't walk enough today, or you need to get up and walk. Okay, so here's that same kind of thing. Here's how Copilot can help you transform your work. So make sure your meetings are efficient, that your documents, that you're not multitasking. In the settings for this, it is here. Here are the settings. The first one is protect your time. I am not a morning person. Do not schedule me for a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, my time, and expect me to be fully present. I have not had enough coffee yet. So I like to set my hours to reflect my work time is not at my actual work schedule. My work time is the time that I want people to be able to schedule with me. Does that make sense? All right. So what is my lunch hours? Here are my work hours. So these, it says 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. These are my quiet time. And then what notifications do I want to allow during that time? In my work week, I can set up my standard schedule and what times. It says 8 to 6. I personally like to have my Fridays open. I don't like to schedule meetings on Fridays because that's the day I get caught up on all the stuff that got hijacked the rest of the week. And my start time, if you look at my calendar, doesn't start till 9, and I like to have 4 o'clock there. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I am a night owl, and you might find me working at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, but this is when I want people to be able to schedule me, and it's my most productive hours. Has anybody done this, set up their work hours? Okay, you can set these up in Outlook too, and they tie together. Okay. Well, you can do a setting. It's like, don't let them schedule with me. Don't request. Yeah. It'll reject anything outside of your hours. She was like, where do I find that? Yeah. So set up your lunch hours when you take your standard lunch time. No meeting day plan settings. Okay, so I can set up reminders that there's no meetings on certain days, like Fridays. And then this will start to measure. Once you set these standards, it will start to measure for you. The other one is, here's your effective meeting settings. So shorten your meetings. This is something else I've done. If you go out to my bookings link and schedule with me, you'll notice that my start times are like 9:05, 9:35 for half-hour meetings, because I need that transition time either to switch tenants, or maybe I just need a bio break, and then I'm not late to those meetings. And it sets that expectation. So on something that's an hour or longer, I want a 10-minute break in between. Something that's less than an hour, I need a 5-minute break in between. And my booking schedule honors that. Right, so you can set those up yourself. A couple of things in here, just as a side note, the virtual commute. This is, when you're in the car, and I say this because commuting is brutal. It's not really relaxation time if you're actually commuting in your certain, urban areas. It's not fun, but it is time to start thinking about work and stop thinking about work. We don't have that when we're working remotely. So that this is also something you can kind of set yourself. Not that you have to do it every single day, but it does start measuring you to see if you're doing this. Okay. So in your insights, it will start to tell you, how are you doing? Set up a daily focus plan, set up some quiet time. Maybe you want to make sure you send praise to your colleagues. I have a intern that I referred to a client of mine, and it was like, I think this would be a good fit. And the owner of the company was having a really rough week with other employees that week. And my person that I referred to him, he's like, you're the best boss I've ever had. It's the best place I've ever worked. Sometimes your bosses need to hear that too. And coming as a recovering HR professional, you shouldn't be getting feedback on your job once a year when you get your performance review. This is something that we can give to people all the time. And if you need to set some time to remind yourself, hey, send somebody a kudo. Right? So here's some of those things that we could do. Insights, great tool. All right, in your meeting, when you start a meeting, let's go to Teams. Say I'm going to create a new meeting. Go to my calendar. Wake up. Okay. I'm going to do a new meeting. And here's my attendees. Whoops. Back. Event. Okay. Give it a title. Give it something meaningful so somebody will say, yes, I want to go to that. So this is going to be project update meeting. And I want that to be in Teams. Now, notice the optional. Who absolutely needs to be there and who doesn't necessarily need to be there, but it would be nice to have you. So my required attendees might be, let's do Mickey, and I'm not going to send this because she won't know. And then maybe I need to have Heather there, okay, as a secondary person. Here's my scheduling time. It gives me on the hour. If I'm scheduling this for them, maybe I again want to give them a little bit of leeway. We're going to go from 2:05. Don't just take the times that are there. 2:05 to 2:50 or 2:55, whatever that might be. Give them time to transition. That's going to keep people from having to be late for stuff. It didn't stick. 2:05 to 2:55. All right. And then we're going to give them information about the what's going to be happening during our event. So here's where that agenda comes into play. Where do we come up with an agenda? Here's a tip, add an agenda. And Microsoft Loop is coming up and gives us a prompt for an agenda. Now, here's some of the challenges with Loop. These are external people. They're not internal people. So if these are internal people, they might see it. If they're external people, depending on your policies in your company, they may or may not be able to see the Loop component. So this may be a good solution for internal, but not necessarily for external. All right.
How do you get that agenda to show up? Because it seems to be hit or miss that it pops up.
You can either, it prompted me, or you see the little loop right here, insert a loop component, and it's one of the options. Well, it should be. I can't get rid of it now. This is ever evolving. I don't know. I'm a OneNote girl. I like OneNote for these things. Just saying. Thinking of my outside voice. Not sorry. But there is some compatibility with some Copilot options in Loop as well that'll help you build that agenda. Okay. So as you're setting up the meeting, again, kind of honor other people's schedule, give them some time in between. Maybe don't, if you know them well, like me, don't schedule me at 8 o'clock in the morning because I will not be conscious yet. Okay.
So in Viva, you said meetings should end 5 minutes early if they're less than an hour. I guess I expected it to give you 2 to 2:25. And
Yeah.
well, where are those settings in Viva reflected if they're not here in scheduling?
When they request me.
Or when they request?
Yes, yeah. And I just changed those settings, so it may not have done its little magic thing yet. So on the insert, I think you can put in, here's loop. Interesting, they don't have an agenda in there as the options. If we do / agenda, does it come up? Nope. Okay. I'm going to have to figure that out because good question. I love it when people stop me.
I missed that it actually pops up for me.
Yeah, it should. It prompted me for one, so why didn't it come up? Oops. Go back to here. All right. All right, so prepare for that meeting. Get ready to go. Set up an agenda. During the meeting, hopefully everybody arrives on time. That would be helpful. Let's all be here on time. Encourage participation. How do we keep people engaged so they don't check out of the meeting? And then assign a note taker. So these are effective meeting techniques. How do we incorporate the techniques in, or the tools to help us support these? Arrive on time, give them the options. Well, we can't control people. We can just give them the ability to arrive on time. How do we do encourage and participation and assign a note taker? Let's go back to our teams. I'm just going to schedule another meeting here. Project update. Invite myself. I have too many. You see my too many logins? Okay. And agenda. Schedule the conference. Decide a keynote. And pick a venue. So one of the things that I like to do for setting an agenda, I'm going to send that off to myself. I use the options that are in Word and OneNote. Say create an agenda around this. So I'm just going to bring up Word, or we can use Copilot if we want to. We go back to our Copilot. We have work, we have web. So for work, this probably was the best explanation that I got about Copilot, what to use when. It came from an AMA, Ask Me Anything for the MVPs that I did with Christian Buckley. If you're not familiar with that, go out and search for hashtag M365 AMA, and there's like 500 questions that we've answered over the years. But this one was specifically with Jay Leask, myself, and Christian. And Jay's like, this is how Copilot works. So they take a snapshot. There's some people are like, ChatGPT doesn't work or works better than my Copilot does. Well, that's because periodically they take the OpenAI source and they drop it into your tenant. And then your tenant learns from that and adds all of your corporate stuff. And then eventually they go take another snapshot of what's been learned from the outside the web and brought it in. So sometimes you get better answers from the external than the internal. The thing you do not want to do is to take your proprietary business information out to the web because it gives you a better answer. Because now you're feeding the knowledge base that is not in your company. And as a recovering HR professional, I don't like to fire people for doing things out of ignorance that they didn't know any better. Okay, so that's something that's, keep that in mind. So in my work or my web, let's use the web, say create an agenda for planning for a planning meeting for setting up a community days event in Denver. Let's see what it comes up with. Trust and verify. Okay, so here's what it tells me I should probably have on my agenda. Probably 70% of the way there, I've planned enough community events that some of these I may agree or not agree with, or don't need to be done in the kickoff meeting or the planning meeting. Maybe we do it later. But this gives me a good starting point. Say if it's 70% of the way there, it saved 70% of my time, what it would have taken me to do this. So this might be something that I would copy in there. So Copilot can help you do that. Set the agenda for the meeting and include that in your meeting invite. Now, if I were to do it from the work side, because I've planned and been on the committees for a lot of these, my answer is going to be different because it's going to take the knowledge from, here's the meeting agendas that I had from previous meetings and probably try to incorporate it. Okay, so good stuff. Notice the times. Here's the schedule. Here's our agenda. Here's how much time we expect to talk about these things. Pretty cool. Well, if I want a better answer, maybe this is a 30-minute meeting. Maybe this is going to be a Teams meeting. Maybe this is a group of new people. So when you search using Copilot, it's different than searching in the web. Searching in the web, you get content. Searching in Copilot, you get context. And you have to teach it. You kind of have to coach it like you would a teenager, right? So I told this story earlier, but this has been the best analogy that I've found. My son growing up, his job was to take out the trash. And I'd say, son, take out the trash. And every single time he would miss different trash cans. I'm like, 4 trash cans, 4 trash bags. There's 2 in each, 1 in each bathroom, the main trash in my office. And then I'd come back from being gone for a week. He's like, I want to go out with my friends. I'm like, no, you didn't do your chores all week. He's like, yes, I did. I took out the trash. I said, no, because that Starbucks cup in the bottom of my garbage can is still there from last weekend. So I know you didn't take my trash out. Don't leave in the evidence, dude. At least take it out once during the week if you're not going to do it. But again, I couldn't just say take out the trash. Every day before this time, I need you to take out the trash. 1 from here, 1 from here, 1 from here, 1 from here. Take it out the big trash can. And then on Mondays, it needs to go to the curb. I had to give him that much information. Okay. So you have to be a little bit more detailed. Coach it like you're coaching a teenager, not a toddler. A teenager. Okay. So when you're asking for information, let's see how long this meeting would be. 25, 45, an hour and 5, 100, an hour and 20. Who's going to stick around in this meeting for 5 hours for all this agenda that it's come up with? Probably not. Okay. So I might want to refine that. Say, limit the time to be 50 minutes. So would it have been faster if I told him from the very beginning this was going to be a 50-minute meeting? Would have saved me the step. All right, much shorter agenda. Welcome isn't 15 minutes. I don't think we need to introduce the whole place. Okay, so again, might be something you whittle down. Like we don't need to cover parking and permits at this point. You can just kind of refine what's in there. So use that to create your agendas. All right, what about in our team settings? I lost track of what I was going to talk about. Oh, it's the encourage participation and assign a note taker. So when you're creating your meeting, I want to point out that prior to setting up your meeting, do you see how it says scheduling assistant up here? This one created my copy. You have settings in your meetings, and of course, they've changed it. Meeting options. This is where you encourage that participation. So you have your different roles. Who are the co-organizers? So they can help you to moderate. They can help you to reschedule. They can help you to invite people. They become basically your second in command. You want the green room. Here's your participation settings. How much participation do you want? Does this group tend to have those talkers that talk a lot, talk over each other, and don't encourage other people to speak? That might be a reason to turn off the mic for people and have them raise their hand. That way you have control over the room and make sure it's an effective meeting. In your meeting chat, do you want to allow the cameras? Yes or no? Well, Bob's always over there eating and crunching in his microphone. So I don't want to watch Bob eat. So, you can turn those things off, and you can always enable them after, but these are the settings by default, right? Allow an attendance report, yes or no? Were they working? And it will start looking at the recording and transcription. If you know that you want it to summarize that meeting for you later, it might behoove you to turn it on so that you don't forget. How many of you have already started me? It's like, oh, I should have been recording this. Have you ever done that? Yeah. Okay, so you can have it record by default. Well, I had a conversation this morning, and the person was like, sometimes we're talking about stuff that I don't want to be recorded. Like, yeah, I get that. Right, allow Copilot or not. So if we turn on the recording and transcription, here's my note taker, AI generated notes. So because I have a Copilot license, me as the organizer has a Copilot license. The rest of you that are attending the meeting do not have to have the license in order to enable or attend and participate. So you can turn that on, and Copilot will go ahead and add that for you. Okay, so encourage participation, use the tools here, recording and transcription, and here's your Copilot settings. Okay, so now when we start that meeting, we start talking, guess what? It's going to go ahead and start generating those meeting notes for us. All right. So here's the settings, and these might be a little bit outdated because, they change things every single day. All right, what about polls? Any of you using polls for participation? I'm finding I'm using this more. I've been working with the group, and they're very quiet. I'm like, how many of you raise your hand? And some have their camera on, they actually raise their physical hand. They're not using I think they're very new to Microsoft 365, and I don't even know that they know how to raise their hand. But polls kind of force them to. And you can say, I only have 10 of you, there's 15, I'm waiting for a couple more responses. You can, I'm not calling anybody out, but. All right, so in your meeting, under the apps, what I like about this is you can do this ahead of time. You can set up the polls and queue them up. And, come on. There we go. It should show up on your taskbar for your meeting. The internet's very slow. Okay, there we go. Here's my apps and the polls. Let's bring it up. Really? It should show up here on the toolbar. It should actually be up here. They just did an update this week. I'm like, what'd you break now? Let's try this. One more time, see if it cooperates. All right, so some of the polls that I like are things like word clouds. And sometimes multiple choice are a little bit too easy. I don't just want to click and check. I actually wanted to think about it and type it out. We did that earlier with a Menti, which was awesome. But it also captures the answers that are there. And what's kind of frustrating me here is that you can reuse the same polls. So there is when you add a poll, they give you some suggested polls, but you can also use ones that you've used before. So you don't have to rewrite them every time. You used to have to create them in each meeting by itself. Let me see if I join this. I just don't want it to feed back. Let me turn off the speakers. Don't use audio. There we go. All right, now let's see. Oh, see, it's on that bar. I should be able to set them up ahead of time without joining. All right, so now we're going to add a poll. Here's the instant polls that are down here, like give me a thumbs up, give me a, good, I like, I don't, and here's some suggestions for those. So how's a meeting? How do we create our meetings with options? These are word clouds. And when people type in the same word, that word, whatever word that's common gets bigger and bigger because that was the most common answer. Kind of nice. Or you can create a new one. And when you have the new one, it gives you some suggestions, like here's a question. And then we have some suggestions for what types of word clouds we want to create. So how are you feeling today? Let them add your own answers. So kind of fun to be able to add those. And then after, do you see this little recycle thing here, right here? These are recent polls that I've done. I've been creating the polls in other tenants, not in mine because I don't have meetings with myself in my own tenant. But you get those set up and saved if you need to. Okay. So use polls to get interaction, get people involved. All right. Your note taker, transcribe using the notes. All right. So post-meeting follow-up. How do we figure out what we need to do afterward? This, again, is those effective meetings. Don't just sit there and talk and have nothing come out of it. There needs to be some action items that come out of that. Share your meeting notes. Ruth, when you're writing all your meeting notes, how do you share those with the people that you're with?
We have a OneNote file. I have my own. We have the group one.
Okay.
Notes don't always, I don't write like they do. I'm extremely detailed, so I have to go through my notes and figure out what I really need to share.
So it's almost double work now, right?
It is sometimes, but sometimes they don't pay attention.
I'm very thorough with my notes. My classmates in college used to pay me for my notes. Like I used to sell my class notes. Yeah, so I'm with you. I take meticulous notes, but how much am I missing while I'm writing? Yeah, so that's kind of where the group notebook you mentioned helps because everybody can kind of add to it. It's like, oh, that's the part I missed. All right, so share those meeting notes. Where are you sharing them? You said you share them in OneNote. If they're an external person, how do you share them? Email? Yeah, it's kind of the only option we have unless we have a federation with a client, and then they can share their information. So we share those meeting notes. That's one of the reasons I will hold on to the desktop version of OneNote with my cold, dead hands, because it has the email a page option, like basic stuff that should be real easy, and then follow up on that information. So how do we, after our meeting, do that? Now let me show you a
Add that sometimes it's external, or I have an external person sharing the chat. Add it to the Teams chat as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so I have kind of a creepy, I'm going to tell you this is a creepy AI generated meeting that I did. It's in Stream. And I had him record this meeting. Anybody familiar with Audiate? Okay, so I went into Audiate and I created all these little personas. So I'm telling you, this whole thing is AI generated. The voice, the avatars, the script. I said, create me a script for a project kickoff meeting, blah, blah, blah. All right, and it's like a 2-minute video, and I'll show you what it came up with.
I want to align on what we must cover in today's kickoff for Project Redwood. We need to make some final calls so we can move forward with clarity.
Totally agree. We need to lock down the tech stack and clarify the engineering resource model. If we don't define the architecture early, we're going to run into major issues later.
Sure, but we also need to talk brand.
So he's the marketing guy.
If we wait too long on messaging, we'll lose months on building buzz and demand before launch. Fair point.
He's the project manager, and she's the IT manager. Okay, so I'm not going to make you listen to the whole thing because why? I can use the Copilot options. So what happened here? It created the transcript, and if you've recorded the meeting, this may take a minute to do, or a few minutes, depending on the length of the meeting. All right, so I'm going to go into Copilot and say summarize the video and let me know what I needed to. What were the highlights of this? Creepy, isn't it? Yeah, Skynet is live, dude. Yeah, it's terrifying. So what I love about this is that it does the time codes in here. Where was this discussed? Because trust, but verify. This doesn't sound right. That's not what I remember from this meeting. Maybe I need to go back and listen to what they actually said. Okay. I don't trust anything. I work in IT. I had a self-parking car for 4 years. I never let that thing park itself because I'm a control freak. All right. So from the transcription, it went through using Copilot and found that. It's like, okay, great. Let's list the main ideas that came out of that. So where are the notes that I'm going to follow up with people? What am I going to send them? This, right? I can copy this, put it in an email, put it in my OneNote if I need to. It's got the summary. What are my action items? What are the action items? I'm sorry?
You know what license you have to do this? Like, is this pro or?
This is the standard Copilot license. Yeah. They give it to us as an MVP, which is nice because otherwise I wouldn't have it. Just saying. I probably would, but I didn't have to. All right. So here's some of the things that we talked about. Now, it can also pick up on sentiment. So one of the things that I asked for when I created the video was to say, where were points that people disagreed? Where are the things that people were disagreeing about? So I'm going to say, were there any areas where there was disagreement? Yeah. Okay, so what they're arguing about the entire time is he's like marketing. He's like, I'm not putting anything out there until you figure out the UX, right? And she goes, well, we're working on functionality. We're not working on UX. He goes, well, then I'm not. That was kind of the whole gist of the conversation with these guys. So here's the interesting part. This was a recording that I created that did not have microphones going back and forth talking to each other. So in a Teams meeting, recognize who is speaking because you're logged in and you're talking. He's like, I never told him his name was Jordan. So yeah, these guys are names. So they're talking about infrastructure and security, and UX design were the areas where they disagreed. Right? I don't want to listen to you two. You do this in every single meeting. Just tell me the highlights of it, right? Okay. So helpful. I can take this now. I can create the follow-up notes. I can create a task list for the action items, copy and paste those, and use whatever tool it makes sense for managing those. There's like 8 different ways to manage tasks in Microsoft 365. And I was like, okay, you've got this, you got the drill, you got the screwdriver, you got the saw, you got the hammer, you got what's the best tool for the job? Good.
So do you think that if you, all the things that you want to pull out of that information and you created one prompt, would the information come out exactly the same or would it come out completely different?
I think it learns from it. So yeah. And
Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah.
One prompt at a time or one whole solid prompt of say, give me this, and this. Boom.
I think it learns from each question. So it refines it from each question and goes back and looks at what the responses were. Because if you were good and if you didn't ask it to fix it or refine it, then it's going to think it's, oh, she's good with that answer. Yeah, but if I say, well, please leave out give it some guardrails, then it might give you a different answer each time. And then after you find your prompt, I think the prompts that you use, save those in a notebook. There's also the prompt gallery, if you're familiar with that. Yeah, and it's like every time I have a meeting, I have to go ask these 10 questions about this. Save those prompts somewhere. By the way, shortcut Shari, Window V. How many of you are using Window V? Rich, are you using Window V because of me? All right, Window V is a collect and paste. What it does, once you turn it on, it allows you to capture snippets and you can pin them. So instead of going copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, you can copy, paste, 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 paste. And then you can either clear them all, the ones that you don't want to keep, or pin the ones that you use all the time. So things like my bookings link, I have that pinned because I use it all the time. My cancellation policy for my classes, I use it all the time. It's pinned on there. I think you can pin up to 20 items. Just Window V, and it'll ask you, do you want to turn it on? Yeah. So cool stuff. All right. So in our scenario, did we sign action items, share the meeting notes, follow up with those? So where do we get that information? You might take that out into like a Word document and say, hey, here's all of the things that came out of that meeting. So by using Copilot for these, you're going to improve your efficiency because I'm not sitting there having to take notes and multitask and work and try and figure out what's going on. I can actually multitask and go back and listen to what I need to later. The collaboration piece, all of this I'm going to go put in a OneNote notebook and probably share it with that meeting so that people have that information and it's searchable going forward. And then probably have better meeting outcomes because we didn't just sit there and talk the whole time and nothing ever came out of it. Those like 5 love languages, gifts of service, or there's gifts and then acts of service, or whatever. Mine is don't waste my time. Don't put more crap on my plate. My husband knows that now. It's like, don't come in and say, can you come out here? I have a project I need help with today. Not unless you asked me like 2 weeks ago, because it's not on my radar. All right, so I can take those notes. Let's take all of this. And I'm going to copy this. Let's go out to Word. Create a document. Yeah, I have not had the best luck with that. Have y'all? Like summarize this and add it to a Word document. See what happens. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. See, it doesn't add it to the Word document. Yeah, doesn't create it for you. The other thing you can have it do is create an email that summarizes this and lists the action items for follow-up by next Friday. What makes you say? Like Dramamine required. Okay. So I'm going to go out to, I'm not going to open my Outlook because there's personal information in there. There's a reason I'm kind of staying out of the other tools because it's my live environment. All right, so this would be the email that goes out to people. Again, verify, refine, make sure. But this saved me probably, how long would it take me to type all that and think of it? Yeah, 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah.
Same requirement that I need to know out of each one of those. And it took me a little while, but it took me a lot less time than it would, have to read through it all. And, it took about like a day.
Yeah. So one of the other things that Viva Insights does is it analyzes the meetings that you're in. So you were saying the small talk is what takes so much time. They're like, you are with the same group of people 3 times this week. That could have been one meeting. And it starts to tell you that, to say, hey, maybe you need to schedule a meeting that's, instead of 3 half-hour meetings, do one 1-hour meeting with those same people and knock out those topics. That might be something that's beneficial. And then now you get everything all at once. Yeah. So I think Viva Insights is one of those overlooked tools that people aren't using because they don't know it's there. And it's built in. It's part of the M365 license.
Yeah, once in a while I'll go through it.
Well,
there's all those links to learning things.
Yeah, and a few years ago, everything was Viva. Viva this, Viva that, Viva, 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 right? Now it's all Copilot, whatever. But there's some of the Viva tools are being deprecated. They're discontinued and no longer supported.
Insights they're keeping, right?
Insights they're keeping. Insights and Engage, I believe. Yeah. Goals is going away. Yeah, I was getting ready to write a course on goals. And I was so excited because I finally had a scenario around it because I had a client say, I want to use a tool that will let me do their performance reviews. Well, being a recovering HR professional, I'm like, I can write a story about that. And every class I teach has a story. I don't just tell you where to click. Let's solve the business problem. And so I was like, yeah. And then the next thing I did 2 sessions and I was like getting ramped up and they're like, oh, it's going away. I'm like, what? Okay, bummer. Because I finally had something unique. Everybody else is doing all the other things. All right, we have about 10 minutes left. What questions, comments, and also, these are new tools. I don't know it all. Y'all are using these in ways I never considered. So would love to have you give the opportunity to share with other people some of the ways that you think Copilot and some of the team settings are helping you be better meeting managers. Or what was your favorite thing? Do we have a mic for the...
I struggle with Teams in the way that you have to, when you accept a meeting in Teams, it doesn't show up in Outlook. But that could be because maybe the way the tenants are set up.
Yeah, is it an external meeting that's coming in?
No, it's an internal, but it's a company that has one tenant, but they're pulling the other company in it partially. They're still on Exchange, whereas the other ones. So I'm thinking that's why the Teams.
So they're an Exchange server, not online.
Tenant in Exchange is on.
Yeah,
that's why it doesn't do that.
It's
See,
I call that.
Talk to you, and I answered my own question.
I call that Frankenstein. Like
yes,
they haven't brought it all. Yeah, they need to wake up.
Even the OneNotes don't sync.
Yeah. Oh
So,
wow.
yeah, it's very challenging.
Frustrating.
I have to work around it and figure it out.
Yeah. So the question basically comes around, if you're using external tenants or they're not federated, what they call federated, where there's a little handshake that happens. They can talk to each other. You're not getting all the information.
Yep.
We also have a comment or question. What was your favorite thing? Or your aha moment? I love those too. This is I delivered this again at Ignite, and it was a 12-minute. It didn't start well because I plugged in my device and it bricked on the stage. I mic'd up ready to go. So I had to log into another device, MFA, to get into that. And I started 2 minutes late in a 12-minute session. So that was fun. But I want to do this one more, and I think it's helpful. So any feedback you have, I'd love to.
I like it. I like the reintroduction of Viva Insights.
Okay.
Because like we said earlier, I'm on Office 365. E3, that's my tenant.
She's an E3 tenant. I'm just saying it for that.
Yeah. And so being able to go back into Viva, I didn't think I had that really, but I do. It's part of it.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's even E1. I think anybody who has a license has the Engage and Engage. And I could be wrong. I'm not a licensed person, and they change stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just call it Insights by Viva or something weird.
Yeah.
Is that this mic doing that? It's something else.
No, it's somebody else.
Okay.
And they still have the Viva Engages Yammer within the license.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's funny. Funny, not funny. They renamed it to Viva Engage years ago, but you go to Viva Engage, it still says Yammer in the browser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just wait for it. There's a bunch of other products.
And I had to just turn on Viva Engage for all my users just so I could use the Q&A feature within Teams.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Because it now uses it from there. So I turned it on just for that, so I'm going to have to do a conditional access policy to block my users from actually using Viva Engage. It's not approved.
Oh, because they're not allowed. I probably should have you here. Say that again. Do it again. Okay. Just
So-
because there's virtual people and they're recording this. That's why.
Yeah, so Viva Engage within the license for all the users that are going to even use and ask a question. And then I'm going to do a conditional access policy to block users from being able to use it itself because we're not approved. It's not an officially approved application.
I could make a joke about that, but I'm not going to do it. Okay.
I keep on sneaking things in. I can only sneak so many.
Yeah, right. Cool. Right. Any other questions? I also noticed Joy left a bunch of her goodies on the back from Orchestry. Shameless plug. If you have the chance to go to Joy's sessions, they're always amazing, and she's so knowledgeable. And she's my sister from another mister. So there's a bunch of stuff back there you can look at.